West Bengal Chief Minister and Trinamool Congress Chief Mamata Banerjee has reached out to the left parties, which is the CPM, along with the other left parties in West Bengal and the Congress, asking them to join hands and come together to keep the BJP out of the state. What does this say about Mamata Banerjee, her politics, and is this something that reeks of desperation given the Lok Sabha results and how well the BJP managed to do in West Bengal? That is the question we are asking today. Please do send in your questions, your comments or your observations, and I'll be very happy to take them up in the course of this conversation. Speaking in the floor of the West Bengal Assembly, Mamata Banerjee said that the left, the Congress and the Trinamool Congress should come together. She, however, clarified that she was not talking about a formal political alliance, but she was talking about coming together in various issues on an issue basis and to defeat the BJP's politics. To give our viewers a bit of context and to refresh memory, in the recent Lok Sabha elections, the BJP managed to do exceedingly well in West Bengal. Of the 42 seats, it won 18 seats and the Trinamool Congress won just 4 more at 22. Now look at the difference from the previous Lok Sabha election. In 2014, the Trinamool Congress had won 34, so hence it came down by 12 seats and the BJP had just 2 MPs. So look at the gain for the BJP. It managed to win 16 extra seats, obviously at the cost of the Trinamool as well as at the cost of the other parties there, which includes the CPM, which has been wiped out in the state. Does this mean now Mamata Banerjee wanting to come together with arch rivals? Trinamool Congress's main rivals in West Bengal have been the left and the Congress. Remember, she was once in the Congress, she broke away, she formed her own party. Her entire political purpose was to end the 3-decade-long left rule, the 3-decade-long CPM rule in the state. She managed to do that. But now, given the BJP's sudden rise in the state, the resurgence in the state, does this mean she's scared? Does this mean she's worried? Well, clearly it does tell us something about what Mamata Banerjee is thinking at this point and what her politics at this point is. Her sole purpose, as I mentioned earlier, was to emerge as the dominant party in West Bengal, which she very successfully managed. She managed to win the assembly elections in a very decisive fashion. In fact, both the left and the Congress were relegated to the peripheries of the state, both electorally and politically. However, the BJP's rise seems to have rattled the West Bengal Chief Minister, and clearly she is looking at some kind of an alliance, even if it's not a formal alliance, to keep the BJP at bay. Now, will this really lead to anything? That is a very, very questionable decision on her part to reach out to arch rivals, because one, it confuses your voters when you've constantly and consistently fought against someone and then you want to stand on the same platform as them. I know there's no constant in Indian politics, but even then for the West Bengal voter, this is a confusing signal, it's a confusing sign. And two, more importantly, we've seen in the recent past that alliances which appear opportunistic or which the voters view as opportunistic do not quite end up working. This was true for the Samajwadi Party and Congress Gadbandhan in Uttar Pradesh in the 2017 assembly elections, and this was also true for what was touted as this Mahagathbandhan between the Samajwadi Party, the BSP, the Congress and Ajit Singh's RLD in Uttar Pradesh in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. In both cases, the BJP got the advantage of the fact that there were rivals who had come together, and BJP managed to portray them as opportunistic, and this is precisely what it is likely to do if Mamata Banerjee does join hands with the Congress and with the left, even if it's on matters of or even if it's on an issue by issue basis. Now, I've already started getting some questions. Let me quickly start taking them. There's a comment from My Time Zone, which on Twitter, which says together all three will sink in case they do not come together now. But I'm not sure that they will sink if they don't come together. There is something to be said about building your own party's base individually and challenging the BJP. See, what the BJP has successfully managed to do is make everybody scramble around and try and look for alliances, which in turn is ending up weakening these parties. Look at what happened in Uttar Pradesh in 2017. The SP and Congress came together. They could not even put up a challenge to the BJP, which really won with a resounding mandate. And instead what happened was both the organizations became weak. Both the SP and the Congress organization became weak. Their vote base seemed to collapse a little bit. So that's exactly what happened, and their own bases did not stay with them. And this is a concern. This is a serious concern for any political party, how much to talk of alliance, or whether you want to rebuild your own party from scratch. Now, Mamata Banerjee does not even need to rebuild from scratch really, because it's not like she's been wiped out in the state. She's still the dominant party, she's still the ruling party in the state, and she was the dominant party even in the Lok Sabha elections, despite the BJP's humongous gains. What she needs to do, I think, is to restructure how she's functioning and to redefine and refresh her politics, because the politics she was pursuing earlier to sort of challenge the left, the times have changed. The left is no longer the principal enemy. She knows that constantly attacking Prime Minister Narendra Modi and using personal comments to do that is clearly not something that's going to work. That's something we saw in the Lok Sabha elections a week before in the last 2 weeks of polling. There were all kinds of comments that she made against the Prime Minister, from calling him Ravan to various comments like that, which talking about his wife, which did not seem to go down with the voters. So she needs to have a clear strategy, a clear approach to politics, which cannot revolve around bringing the BJP down or bringing Prime Minister Modi down. Norfield says, if left join Mamata, will the vote share transfer after years of fighting, or there will be a repeat of what happened in UP with the SP, BSP? Well, clearly this vote transfer is not something that's happening as planned. Now, this is something I consistently maintain. Arithmetic is one thing in politics, and chemistry is quite another. And clearly arithmetic is, at this point, it's not to say it won't happen in future, but at this point arithmetic is less important than chemistry, which is something the BJP has successfully managed to accomplish. When you look at the arithmetic of the SP Congress alliance or the SP BSP RLD alliance, it should have worked really, but it clearly did not. And it's not that it did not work, it just meant that these parties are now fighting for survival. So whether the vote transfer can happen between the CPM and Trinamool, it's very difficult to say. I personally believe it's not easy to happen, not just because the voters are at odds with each other, but because the workers and cadre have such bitter history. They've only fought each other all these decades. They've fought each other. In fact, it's really a state with a history of bloody politics. It's a very violent state when it comes to politics, and for these workers to be able to work together in tandem and for each other, something that seems unlikely, and it's really not the solution for either of these parties. Left, of course, has a lot of thinking and a lot of overhaul to do, so we're not even going there. But for the Trinamool, it can't cede any more space, because if it comes together with the left and the Congress, it will end up ceding some more space to them, and which is something which it can ill afford. It needs to retain its existing base while regaining the base it has lost, and it needs to find a way to do that. Also, of course, what has worked against Trinamool, it's shaky politics. It was earlier viewed as extreme Muslim appeasement. However, with the BJP using that aggressively, and with the BJP using issues like the citizenship bill aggressively, or talking about bringing NRC in the state aggressively, she seemed to change tack a little bit, and that's also again something that went against her in terms of seeming opportunistic and seeming almost like without a clear ideology. So she needs to clarify all those things. There has to be serious rethink within the Trinamool Congress as what to do. There's a question from Vladimir. Using slurs and defaming Modi had a detrimental effect. Do you think so? Well, I did mention that earlier in the conversation. It really did. See, I think that's something that's not true just for the Trinamool Congress. It's true for political parties and leaders across the spectrum. Any kind of personal attacks that were made on Prime Minister Modi have only boomeranged and have not worked for the opposition at all. Whether it is Congress President Rahul Gandhi's Chaukidar Chor Hai jibe, or it is Mamata Banerjee's jibes at the Prime Minister, or it is former Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Mayawati's jibes at the Prime Minister in questioning his loyalty to his wife, and all of those personal comments that came, none of them seem to have eroded anything as far as the BJP is concerned, but seem to have gone against these opposition leaders and parties. So clearly there's a message from the voter that your only ideology, or that your only strategy, or only aim for that matter, cannot be to simply bring the BJP down and to simply bring the Prime Minister Modi down. You have to have a more positive narrative. You have to have a narrative of your own, which is something that every political party in the opposition at this point really needs to think about, starting from the Congress, of course. But having said that, as I've mentioned earlier in this conversation, the Trinamool Congress, as compared to these other parties, whether it's the Congress or SP or BSP, has an advantage. It's still the dominant party in the state. Now, we know assembly elections in West Bengal are due in 2021, and that is perhaps, which is what is causing this churn. There is a concern within the Trinamool Congress and within the opposition camp that the BJP inroads not just at the national level but also at the level of the state, for that matter in the assembly elections. That this is clear that the BJP is also aiming to do that. Please remember that even after elections were over, there were Trinamool Congress Rajya Sabha MPs and there were Trinamool Congress leaders who were leaving the party and joining the BJP. Until very recently we saw that happen. So clearly BJP's agenda and aim was not just to win those number of seats in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. It's clearly looking at 2021 as its main aim, as its goal, which is why it's still trying to woo leaders from the Trinamool Congress and other parties and get them on its side in West Bengal. It's trying to really strengthen its organization, strengthen its base, beef its own structure in the state, beef up its own structure in the state, which is what it's trying to do. So there is a worry clearly among these opposition parties, particularly among the Trinamool Congress, that the BJP is aiming at 2021 as well, and which is where the whole point comes in, which is what you've also asked, that it's just by attacking Modi personally or by questioning his integrity or talking about him, it's not going to yield anything, because that's clearly not sticking. Of course, not to say that you should not attack the BJP on issues just because voters are on favoring the BJP. That's certainly the opposition's job. But these personal comments and slurs, as you've referred to, clearly have a problem. There's another question which says, are the left and the Congress interested in joining hands with the Trinamool Congress? Well, I think both parties have already spoken out. CPM was quick to say that no, we can't do this. Now, it's an interesting situation where Mamata Banerjee, soon after the elections when the BJP did so well, blamed the Congress and the left for facilitating that. And now the Congress and the left are blaming the Trinamool Congress and saying it's because of your policies and your politics that the BJP has managed to do so well in West Bengal. So clearly there are fissures and cracks within the opposition camp which are glaring. But what has happened is that the CPM has very clearly said that no, we don't want to have anything to do with the Trinamool Congress, because Trinamool Congress was once in the NDA, it had joined hands with the BJP at one point, so it's not a party with whose ideology we can concur. The Congress also, there are Congress leaders who've come out and said no, we don't want to have much to do with the Trinamool Congress. So this is just, it seems like something where Mamata Banerjee extended some sort of an olive branch, but it wasn't accepted by the other side, which further actually weakens the opposition, because this is, do not forget, the BJP and Prime Minister Modi and Party President Amit Shah are not politicians to let anything go by easily. They will use this up in the election campaign in West Bengal. They will remind the voters about how Mamata Banerjee tried to reach out to these parties and how she's opportunistic and how these parties said no, and that there is no stability in the opposition camp, and he will use the party will use it, so which is something that can trouble the Trinamool Congress and the opposition further. There's another question which says, as per data being presented, the TMC hasn't done much in infrastructure or incentives. Any comments? Well, I think there is dissatisfaction against any incumbent in any state government, and that most certainly there is against Mamata Banerjee as well. Law and order is a big question in West Bengal, and this is something we've seen. The culture of political violence has only intensified over the last few years. So there are questions about the way the Trinamool Congress and led by Mamata Banerjee have governed the state, have run the state government. Having said that though, it's still not too late. She has 2 years. There is a lot that you can do even in your last 2 years in power before the assembly elections. But again, you may be right in the sense that obviously the work she's done hasn't been so pronounced or hasn't resonated well enough, because clearly the results of the Lok Sabha elections also show that in a state like West Bengal, which was traditionally not a BJP state at all, it's a completely new territory, completely new domain for the BJP in that sense. Now also what worries the opposition is that there are other examples where this has happened. Look at Assam. This was a state where BJP was traditionally really non-existent. It was a state of the Congress, plus there was AGP, which is a regional party. However, the BJP sprung into the scene and now it has really consolidated its hold over the state. Look at Tripura. This was a state which was completely out of the BJP's kind of politics and out of bounds for BJP. It was a left fortress, and the only other party that which had a presence was the Congress, but it jumped up from nothing, from a 0.5 or some 1.5% vote share in the assembly elections, the last assembly elections, to winning the state in 2017, and now with such a handsome mandate. So there are examples, and which is perhaps what is rattling Mamata Banerjee. There are enough number of examples to show that BJP is capable of getting into a new territory and not just eroding somebody else's base, but also just capturing it entirely and becoming the dominant party in that state. And there are two states in which the BJP wants to do this. It's West Bengal and Orissa. Orissa, of course, assembly elections just finished. But the BJP did fairly well in the Lok Sabha election. So these are states where the BJP has now has its eyes set on, and it wants to rule these states and do well, not just in Lok Sabha but also in the assembly elections. Well, I'll take one last question because we are running out of time. What does it mean for national politics if all of these smaller parties keep coming together, but if these alliances don't work out? That's an interesting point, because there was a time when not so long ago, really even just a year ago, when these opposition parties believed that their coming together would mean would pose a serious challenge to the BJP. Clearly that has not happened. Clearly the alternative is not for these parties to forge these opportunistic alliances. And these alliances do seem opportunistic to voters, because look at SP and BSP, such a bitter history since the infamous guest house incident. Look at TMC and CPM and Congress, again such bitter rivalry, such a bitter history. And when you try and come together, it confounds the voter, it confounds your cadre, and it clearly does not work out. A national alliance per se is not even particularly possible, because each regional party has a limited geographical presence. So, what would a Trinamool Congress gain by joining hands with, say, an Aam Aadmi party? Or what would Samajwadi Party gain by joining hands with, say, DMK? So these are very complex questions, and for national politics, it essentially means is that BJP needs to be challenged, one, nationally, and two, in every state, but not by forging such alliances, but by allowing dominant parties and for them to rethink their strategy and to be able to regain their grounds in the state independently, individually, so that their parties also remain intact and the BJP is also challenged adequately. Well, thank you so much for watching and for sending in all your questions.